Lori here. I'm here today to do kind of a combined video because it's midway through the year. Everyone has been doing the mid-year freakout tag and telling people their highest and lowest rated books so far. And since I've read 100 books so far due to quarantine lifestyle and having a lot of time at my home, I'm going to combine both videos into one. So I am going to do the tag, and then at the end I'm kind of going to go over my highest rated books and my lowest rated books with you guys so that I can kind of use this as the guide point for the end of the year, because I read a lot. I mean, I don't think I've ever read this many books this early in the year, but I think that's mostly because I was home so much and there really wasn't a lot to do, to be very honest with you. But the first question I have is, what is your favorite book of the year? This is like so hard for me to choose. So what I did is I broke it down into two categories. So I did it for fantasy, and then I did it for contemporary. So the contemporary books I chose was Moment of Truth by Casey West, which I really wound up enjoying. It's the third book in her series that's like, the first one is like Love, Life, and the List, Fame, Fading, The First Kiss, Moment of Truth. I wound up really liking this book. I would kind of go in and not really read the summary of it because I think the summary just is kind of confusing. But I wound up thoroughly liking this book, and it became one of my favorite reads of the month that I read it in. And also, another contemporary book that I wound up really liking was From Twinkle with Love by Sanaya Menon. This felt a girl named Twinkle who wants to be a director, and she's kind of gets roped into working on a school project. But most of the book is written through letters to her favorite female directors. These two were definitely like the highlights of my contemporary, and I'm just starting reading contemporary for the summer, so I can't wait to see what other books come my way. And in regards to fantasy, I have to give a shout out to Queen of Air and Darkness because I finally finished that series. And it was one that really like packed quite a punch at the end. And another book I want to give a shout out to is Five Dark Fates by Kendra Blake, which is the final book in her Three Dark Crown series that I wound up really enjoying. Definitely was one that I was really excited for, and that book definitely did not let me down. So right now I would say Queen of Air and Darkness, Five Dark Fates, Moment of Truth, and Twinkle with Love are like my top 4 favorite books. Sorry, I just can't choose one. The next question that was asked was, what is your favorite sequel? And for this one, I would focus on 2. I would focus on Nightfall, which I think is the 6th book in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series that I wound up really, really liking. I struggled a little bit with Flashback, but I'm hopeful that Legacy will kind of intrigue me a little bit more. And also, Nightfall was one that I really, really enjoyed, and also, A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is the second book in her A Curse So Dark and Lonely series. That book followed Grey and a new young lady. And I wound up loving that book. I thought it was really interesting how it kept going with the Beauty and the Beast story, but in kind of totally like a different direction. And I was super impressed by that book. So definitely Nightfall and Heart So Fierce and Broken were definitely my 2 favorite sequels that I've read, or subsequent books in a series, because Nightfall was like book 6, but subsequent book in the series, those are the 2 that I wanted to give a shout out for. And I'm really excited to keep reading these series because I think the other books in the series comes out this year, so I'm very, very excited to keep reading as well. The next question that was asked was, what are some new releases you're excited to dive into? And I have so many because I went to BEA and I went to ALA and also BEA this year that we got a lot of ARCs from. But I wanted to shout out My Calamity Jane by the Lady Janies, which I got on my Kindle. And I also wanted to shout out Time of Our Lives by Austin Sigmund Broca and Emily Webberly, which is their newest release that just came out, I think, in May. And I'm really excited to dive into those 2 reads and hope to get to them this summer, but by far. But those are the 2 books that I have are inching their way up my TBR slowly but surely. And I've heard great things, so hopefully I like them as much as other people do. The next question is who are new to you favorite authors or new authors in general that you have read this year. Since I read 100 books, I can't just choose one. I don't think it's very fair, but I will kind of like balance it. New to me was Jeff Wheeler. I really love The Queen's Poisoner, which is an adult read that I just picked up like a couple of months ago and wound up really liking it. He has so many series out, but right now I'm really invested in it. I hope to actually read one of those books like next month, the next book. Also, another author that was new to me was Catherine Purdy, who wrote Bone Crier's Moon. She has another series out, but this is the one was in my owl crate, and I devoured it. I love that book so much. And then just some new in general author. One was Alicia Dow, who wrote Sound of Stars, which I loved. That cover is gorgeous, by the way. You definitely should pick that book up. The tagline is, "What if our love of pop music and books could save the world?" And it has like a science fiction twist. Thoroughly loved it. Adeline Grace, who wrote All the Stars in Teeth, is another author that I really love. That book had to do with like mermaids and sirens. Again, another Owl Crate book. And Where Dreams Descend by Janelle Angelis, and actually another Owl Crate author. So I wound up really loving all of these authors, and Where Dreams Descend was so good. It was like the perfect mix of Phantom of the Opera, and like it was a really fun read with like such a cool magic system. So those are like the oh, and also Emma Lord is another author that I love. Tweet Cute so much. I'm so excited that she's coming out with a book in 2021. And yeah, so those are my 5 authors that I really was impressed by so far in 2020. The next prompt is, who is your newest bookish crush? And this was actually really easy because I just finished this book recently. But The Princess Will Save You, Luca, I loved him so much as a character and was so impressed with it. So Luca definitely has a shout out. His princess was going to save him, whether he liked it or not. So Luca definitely, and also contemporary. There was a lot of them. But I want to give a special shout out to Jack in Tweet Cute because I just loved him. I thought that he was great, and I really enjoyed that couple dynamic and that character. So yeah, a lot of Emma Lord love in this video. If you've not checked out Tweet Cute, it's a great summer read. I highly recommend it. The next prompt is, who is your favorite character? And this was actually so hard to choose, but I'm gonna say Owen from The Queen's Poisoner, which I read recently, and it was like a random pick that I had on my Kindle, and I've heard incredible things about this book, but I just loved Owen as a character. He starts as a really young kid, like 6 or 8, but I can just envision him becoming an adult, and I just felt head over heels for him. So he's quite cute, and I just loved him trying to make his way in this political world. But yeah, he was definitely a character that I wound up really enjoying, and is definitely one of my favorites. Also, a nice shout out. Where'd that book go? I just had it. It was in my hand. To Prince Amara in The Princess Will Save You. So I'll give you guys a boy and a girl. But I also really loved her and her like dynamics in this story, but she was definitely quite fun. So yeah. The next question is, a book that made you cry. I rarely cry when I read books. I just that's not what I do when I read books. But these two made me very close. Or I had like tears in my eyes when I was reading them. One was from Twinkle with Love by Sanaya Manan. The very end of that book, there was like some things that happened that just like, I will admit, I was like, oh, that is so sweet. So that was like a very fun, nice crying. Like I like the end of that. And also Majesty by Catherine McGee. There was a moment in that book that definitely made me cry because I think I got so invested in all those characters. I just wanted everyone to be happy, and I was pretty pleased with the ending. So those are 2 books that made me cry, but more because like I was just so happy, and it was just like a couple of sweet gestures. I'll say that. The next question, what are some books that made you happy? And these were actually really easy. I would say Lucky Caller by Emma Mills. I was not the biggest fan of Famous in a Small Town, but I wound up really liking Lucky Caller like a lot. I thought it was very fun and just very cute, and the ending just put a happy smile on my face. Everything worked so well in the end of that book, and it just made me happy. And also Tweet Cute by Emma Lord was just such a funny, sarcastic concept, and I just love the characters and the world building and the side characters. So that book definitely made me smile as well, and I recommend those both for your summer TBR for sure. The next question is, what are some of the prettiest books that you've bought or acquired? Definitely, I really love the cover of Bone Crier's Moon. This is the Owl Crate edition, but the actual edition was so pretty as well, and I wound up really enjoying this book. Also, Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow is another pretty gorgeous cover, and I definitely am contemplating getting the physical book for this one because I really, really like this cover. And another one is Sisters of Sword and Song by Rebecca Ross, which just came out in June, I think, unless it got pushed. But again, another cover that I wound up really, really liking in a book that was so solid, in my opinion. So these are the 3 covers that really impressed me so far this year. So. And the last actual question for this video is, what are some books you must read before the end of the year? I am just looking at my books, like... There's so many. But I'm going to pick 3. I need to read Finale by Stephanie Garber. I actually am going to wait until my library reopens so I can get a physical copy. And if it takes too long, I'll probably just get the ebook from my library. But also, I really do want to start the Way of Kings series by Brandon Sanderson. Book 1 Part A is right there. And then I also really want to read Keeper of the Lost Cities Book 8, I think. It's right there. But I want to read that before the other, like the middle book, like the half book comes out. It comes out, I think, in November. So those are the top 3 that I would like to read before the end of the year, hopefully. But I just want to kind of go through my top 14 books that I read so far this year, because I did read 100, and that's like a pretty big accomplishment. Aurora Burning by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff was another book that I wound up really enjoying. Definitely didn't love it as much as the first book in this series, but still really, really liked it. And I have to wait until I can get a book to match my other one, because with all the COVID stuff, a lot of the people that were doing pre-publicity stuff for that it unfortunately got canceled. So I'm waiting for a one when I can get my book signed. I don't know when that will be. What I Like About You by Marissa Cantor was one of the first contemporary books that I read this year that really, really stuck out to me. All the Stars in Teeth by Adeline Grace was another one. Where Dreams Descend by Janelle Angelis is another one that I wound up really, really liking. The Unmapped Chronicles, The Casper Talk, and The Everdark Wings was a middle grade book that just stole my heart from page 1. Tweet Cute, which I've talked about so much in this series, in this video, by Emma Lord. Nightfall by Shannon Messenger, which I've also talked about in this video, which is book like 6 in that series. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson was one that I wound up loving so much. Lucky Caller by Emma Mills. Verona Comics by Jennifer Dugan, and that was actually a shock to me because I did not love Hot Dog Girl as much as everyone else did, but I love Verona Comic. It's like a loosely inspired Romeo and Juliet retelling, but it does deal with like a lot of harder topics like anxiety and depression, and it was codependent relationships. It was a book that I wound up really, really enjoying. Queen of Air and Darkness was one that I spoke about before, but definitely needs another shout out. Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow was another one that I wound up really, really loving. Majesty by Catherine McGee is another one that I wound up really, really liking as well. So those are about 13 to 14 books that so far in 2020 really, really stood out to me. And now the not so exciting ones, the ones that did not wow me the way I wanted them to. Shadow Frost, I read that early in the year and I liked it. I didn't love it. Havenfall by Sarah Holland, I didn't love it. I really wanted to, but the world building just was not there for me in that book. Meet Me at Midnight by Jessica Pennington is one that I'm so sad about. I just didn't love it as much as I loved her previous books, unfortunately. It just didn't do it for me. Onyx and Ivy by Minzy Arnett was so slow-paced. I just could not get into it. Scavenger of the Stars by Tara Sim is one that I liked but didn't love. So that is kind of the wrap-up for my mid-year freakout tag. I'm so proud of myself that I wound up reading 100 bucks. But yeah, let me know in the comments what are some of your answers to your questions, or go on my blog post and answer them there. But I'll talk to you guys later, and I hope you guys are staying safe and being well. Bye, guys.